to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Jennifer Wakeman. For this show, we have assembled musicians with very different styles and very different instruments to highlight some of the region's musical talent. We'll start with Jesse Walsh of Lewisburg, who plays a most unusual instrument, the musical saw. A little bit of sibling rivalry was all it took to motivate Jesse to learn to play the saw.
My sister Janice plays the saw, and she does quite well. And she learned from her grandmother, who she married. She married into a family, and the grandmother, whose name was Lena, played the saw, Lena Knauer. Lena taught Janice how to play the saw. And Lena was quite popular with saw players. Actually, she was even on Merv Griffin, and she played with Liberace.
About 35 years ago, Janice gave Jesse a saw as a Christmas gift.
Not to be outdone by her, I thought I needed to learn how to play this. And it is something that you don't necessarily take lessons for, you just pick it up and you try to get some sound to come out of it.
According to Jesse, you simply have to have an ear for music to be able to play the saw.
They say if you can hum it, if you can carry a tune, you can play the saw. So you don't have to have any real musical background.
There are a couple of saws in her collection. This is the one that her sister gave her. It's a musical saw made in Wisconsin by Muscle and Westfall. The other is a Stanley, and it was purchased in a local hardware store.
The one you're playing is sharp, or you're going to play. It's sharp.
All right, but you don't want to hit sharp notes, so.
But I'm cheap.
There are a lot of really goofy, awful saw jokes.
There have to be like 1,000.
Really awful.
bad.
And if things don't go well, you can cut it short, you know. I know, it's awful.
Bad jokes aside, both are functional saws, but there are some differences between them.
This is a little thinner, the steel's a little thinner. You get more of a range with a saw like this, and they say you can get 2 octaves.
So how exactly does the saw produce music?
You need to bend the saw to get different notes.
That's how you change
Yes.
it. Because it's the same theory, I guess, as like a piano string or a violin string, that you're changing the length of it.
That's right.
Saws can be played with either a mallet or a bow.
You should try to get a tone out of it by like striking at different places like that. Now, if you don't bend it, you don't get much, so you have to, like that.
Jesse likes to play her saw with a bow, and as it turns out, generating a pleasing sound is all about where the bow is placed.
They call it a sweet spot because when you play the saw, you make an S curve. So I push down on my thumb with my thumb and pull up with my fingers, and you can see that it's somewhat of an S. You use your imagination. And there's a sweet spot, which would be right probably in the middle of that.
While there is music written for the saw, Jesse prefers to play by ear. If she can hum it, she can play it on her saw. As a former string player and someone who really likes to have music in front of me, this all seemed very complicated.
Seems like a lot of moving parts to me, but it's probably not any harder than learning any other instrument.
I'm sure it's a whole lot easier than learning any other instrument.
Jessie rosined up her bow and was ready to go.
Put this, the handle between your knees.
Sharp side facing towards
Sharp
you,
side
obviously.
facing towards. And you want to bend it. And that's how you do it.
Vibrato is key to getting a pleasant sound from the saw.
See, if you don't get a vibrato, if you just, well, that's not too awful, but what you want to do is vibrate your leg a little bit to get that soprano sound.
To give us a proper demonstration of her talent, Jessie invited her friend John Walls to accompany her on the piano. Here they are playing I'd Rather Have Jesus. Pretty cool, isn't it? And she makes it look easy. Well, now it was my turn to try my hand at playing the saw. Oh, this is not gonna end well.
And you bend it. You've got a good curve.
Really?
Yes,
Doesn't
you do.
this is work?
It is work.
All right, now I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna pull it across before I try vibrato. Oh, wait. There's the ugly sound. Where's the sweet spot?
Actually, that's good. There it is.
I get, well, I notice your bow strokes are kind of short. They're not, it's not like a violin where you're, it's not a long bow stroke that you do typically, is it? It's kind of.
You know what? I don't even think about it. But I don't think about it.
Yeah, that's exhausting. How do you do this?
I know, really hot.
I'm warm. I'm like
sweating
breaking
right
a
now.
sweat. This is hard. Okay.
Really, it was difficult for me to keep the bend in the saw. Fortunately, there is a cheat available that hooks onto the end of the saw and allows you to keep the curve without straining your hand.
You need that cheater thing because my little thumb is going to break
You have
off.
a little
I have a little thumb,
Yes,
and
you do.
I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, why does my forearm hurt? Oh, it's from playing the saw.
Yeah, now
Wow.
shake your leg.
Okay, I can't do all this stuff at once. I'm like,
Shake your leg. Okay.
just one leg?
This is gonna work, I can tell. Yeah. There you go.
Ow! It worked! She's like, it's going to work. I can tell.
I would say probably within a week you would be playing a song. There you go.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I would buy the cheater thing. Okay, I've made sound on the saw. This is progress.
You did really well. So that's your first lesson.
Jessie suggested I try playing a simple tune.
Okay.
That's actually rather good. There are many people who cannot even get a note out of it the first time, so she's quite advanced.
But I'm trying to play Twinkle Twinkle and it doesn't sound anything like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It sounds like wah 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 wah.
I think I'll keep my day job. Jessie Walsh has shared her talents at churches, schools, and local civic groups. From time to time, she attends conferences with other saw players.
I jammed on the streets of Santa Cruz in California with my saw, with several other saw players and some guitarists. It was really cool. See, California has they have a saw players association. And now I found out there's one in New York, so I'm going to New York City next year.
So there you have it, the musical saw, right here in your neighborhood. Just after the break, we go from saws to saxophones.